Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free.
You can't handle the truth.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
That's not how the Force works. Oh, really? You're cold?
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I'd buy that for $1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Hasta la vista, baby.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Control Movie Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today for our Dune movie review. We will be going into spoilers for this. However, we will give you a notification before we do so. So the first part of this review is going to be spoiler free. And so you can sit back, relax, and enjoy it, and we'll give you a warning. So joining me for today's podcast, we have Alex and Sasha. How are you doing, gentlemen?
All good?
Yeah, all good, man. All good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining. We were fortunate enough to, we're all Cineworld card holders, so thank you very much, Cineworld. They did a Cine card holder screening, advanced screening of Dune, so we watched that on Monday evening, so we were able to be amongst the first to see it, don't get any of those spoilers, and we can kind of give you an early review to help you maybe decide whether you want to see it or not. So we're going to give you a bit of a breakdown of Dune, what it's about, without going into spoilers again. So Dune is based on Frank Herbert's 1965 novel. Obviously, we had a previous version of this, which was Sasha.
Sorry, I wasn't paying.
Nice. Appreciate it. We're professionals here. The first Dune movie. What's that about? Who made it? When did it come out? What's it about?
Oh, David Lynch's not 5 version of Dune. Yeah. Who's in it?
No, just that exists. So that was the first incarnation of it, and obviously we've now got our new version of it, and one that the director Villeneuve wanted to make very authentic to the books, and his whole deal with Warner Brothers was that he wanted to be faithful to books, and it was going to be over 2 movies. He couldn't get it into 1 movie, so it's very obvious from the start that this is Dune, and it says part 1. So it sets your expectations right up at the beginning that you're not going to get all your questions answered for this film. If they don't make a part 2, this is going to be pretty much of a waste of a movie, but fingers crossed it's going to do well enough for it to do it. But the focus is on 2 feudal houses, basically, sort of like your Game of Thrones-esque, I guess. You've got House Atreides, who are the owners and rulers of planet Caladan, which is like an ocean planet. And then you've got House Harkonnen, which is planet Gidi Prime. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong. It's far distant future, so year 10191 AG. So they're battling control for this planet Arrakis. It's also known as Dune, where the spice melange is found and can be harvested. So it's part of the planet. It's sort of like within the sand. It affects the natives there, and it gives them sort of like longer life and some maybe slightly different abilities, and they've had to adapt to it because it's just a hot planet and the sun's always out. But basically, the spice is also used for space travel, so it's one of the most precious commodities in like the universe. So it's hot property. So we have Duke Leto Atreides, who's played by Oscar Isaac. He's been offered stewardship of the planet to do the spice production. And he goes with his son Paul, who is Timothée Chalamet's character, who's the focus of the story. He's your central character, and he goes along with his wife and his guards, who's made up of Rebecca Ferguson, Jason Momoa, and Josh Brolin, amongst others. So we kind of learn that Paul has some special abilities, like his mother. And again, not going to go into spoilers about what those are, but he does see some visions of Chani, who's Zendaya's character, who's a member of the Fremen, who are the natives to Arrakis. So House Harkonnen, who were in charge of the planet previously, the Emperor relieves them of the stewardship of that, and Atreides go to take it over. But then they stage a coup against Atreides, and it's kind of a big setup. It's like who's playing who. So it's very much a Game of Thrones kind of thing. So it's Game of Thrones throwing some Lord of the Rings and throwing a lot of Star Wars. You can see where George Lucas has taken a lot from Dune into his Star Wars saga. So we'll touch on that a little bit more in the spoilers and stuff like that. So first impressions, gentlemen. So Alex, what were your general impressions of the movie?
I liked it and enjoyed it. I've never read the book,
Mhm.
and I've never seen David Lynch's movie, so I
Mhm.
was skeptical going in whether I know it's like a dense material, so I wasn't sure whether I would be able to sort of like follow it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I like I'm big into my sci-fi and
Yeah.
heavy sci-fi, so it is my jam, as to say. But I wasn't sure whether I would be able to sort of like keep track of everything. But yeah, no, the movie laid everything out, nice and easy to follow, and visually fantastic. I mean, you can't fault it. And yeah, I came out like really enjoyed it. I they say it needs. You're hoping that the second part gets made,
Mhm.
because the story is incomplete.
Mhm.
It's weird how it's not been like promoted as Dune Part 1.
Yeah.
It only came up in that initial title card. I was like, oh, okay, so it's definitely. So I wasn't sure whether the movie would be something where there is kind of like a full story, but clearly more to tell for Part 2.
Yes. Yeah.
No, it's clearly it's Part 1, and it's going to be Part
Mhm.
2, as opposed to a self-contained story that has the potential to continue. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's hope that second part happens, because you kind of need to know what happens.
Yeah, that was very much what I thought. My anticipation going into this is we were going to get a complete story where we can then potentially see where these characters go. Which, again, if we had that part 1, I think my expectations would have been very different going into it. But maybe that's a very smart tactic for your general movie going audience, because if they know it's a part 1, maybe they won't be as invested. They're like, oh, wait for part 2 and watch it
that
together.
was my thoughts, actually. Yeah, because especially with. I was a fan of Blade Runner 2049, but obviously knowing that it didn't do that well box office wise, if people kind of knew this was a part 1, they might think, oh yeah, but it's not. If part 2 doesn't get made, then why am I wasting my time going to see part 1 when part 2 is not going to happen?
Yeah, and it's just
it was just okay. Well, we're going in and we're seeing a story be told. Little do you know that. All right, like you say, they tell you straight away with the title card. It's like, dude,
yeah,
part 1.
yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah, as soon as it come up, I was like, Sash. I was like, oh, okay.
So you're sort of thrown straight into it, so you know from that point. But I think it's probably sort of clever marketing as well to be like, no, let's, until you've already bought your ticket and you're in your seat. That's when you find
Yeah,
out.
you're
That
sitting down, going, son of a bitch. You got me here. So, Sasha, what was your overall thoughts of the film?
Amazing, love it. It does have its problems. That I'm not going to discard that, despite me really liking it. Thing is, though, when knowing going in that it was going to, I think a lot of it has to do with my reserved expectations on knowing the material, knowing where the cut-off point might be. So I had a certain expectation. Not everything was met, but I wasn't disappointed, if that makes sense. When I say that, it all had to do with where they cut it off, because they cut off in a way where it was kind of sudden, where people would be like, well, is that it? And to me, I was like, okay, well, I guess that is just that it. The fight at the end, that was kind of unexpected. I can't remember whether that's in the book or not, but it's definitely not in the David Lynch film. Because in the David Lynch film, they just kind of go off with them.
Right, okay.
They kind of go off with them, and next minute, he's leading them. And it's like, huh? Well, okay, fair enough. But obviously, they've left that for more drama in the second one, which is cool. I like the fact that Paul had to prove himself with that fight as well. And the fact that, that he isn't a seasoned warrior as well. So when he wins it, it felt deserved. I wish the fight could have been longer, so it could have been a set piece at the end. That way, we as a casual audience would have had like a finale as such, if that makes sense, kind of thing. I think my only problems with it is probably the same as you guys. For a general audience, you probably would have wanted it to be more action packed. In say when the Harkonnens take over their tradies, put Momoa in a more prominent, not Momoa, Batista probably in a more prominent kind of position, kind of thing, like just executing people and stuff, and probably show more about where Josh Brolin's character Gurney disappears off to, because that was always something like I could go into spoilers here, but like it's just kind of like he's gone in the movie. He's gone. Can I talk spoilers, or are we going to go into?
We're going to go into more spoiler stuff.
Okay, so in that case, like he's gone in this movie, and there's no like explanation as to where he's gone. But yeah, I think they could have done a little bit more on that whole thing and have that be a center set piece kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then again, it was a long movie anyway, and a lot of that was due to the character build-ups and the expedition of the story. So I guess stuff had to be sacrificed, and obviously the stuff that I mentioned, pumping up the action and stuff, that's probably not what Dune fans are probably wanting of Dune, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, as a casual viewer, I mean, it's a slow burn movie. I've got no issues with that. I don't mind a slow burn. And obviously, you needed that character development, that world building to understand, the universe and what's going on. It's just usually with a slow burn, it leads to a conclusion.
Climax,
we know that will come obviously with part 2. Fingers crossed. But
sure.
it was just that fact that it they sort of didn't conclude in its traditional sense. But in terms of like there was no necessarily need to pump up the action in that respect. For me, it was just like I enjoyed the world building and stuff. So
it's kind of like the best. You know what? Fellowship of the Ring kind of does this well. There's a lot of setup, but at the same time, he knew there were other parts, but there's payoff in that movie, if that makes sense, before they cut it. I think the close, so it's just a bit uneven that way as a film.
So we'll come to a point where you talk about where you would have cut it off, and I agree with you when we spoke about it at the end of the cinema. So my overall thoughts, Denis Villeneuve, he's created something visually stunning. It's an absolutely stunning piece of cinema. And it's definitely something that you should go watch on the big screen. If you have the option to watch it on HBO Max and streaming, go see it in the cinema. It is totally worth it for that experience. The music by Hans Zimmer is phenomenal. It is just really encompassing, intoxicating. It does everything you need it to. Unfortunately, we actually suffered some sound issues during our performance where the surround sound dropped out a few times. But the score, the sound, it was fantastic. I think Zimmer himself, I think he's the one he's most proud of. He thinks is the best work he's done. But really, really great. There's some really strong performances. Again, Timothée Chalamet, I thought was really, really good in the role. For a lead, he really carried it well. Rebecca Ferguson, she was in it a lot more than I expected as well in terms of her presence in the movie. And I think there was probably less of everybody else. There was less Oscar Isaacs, less Momoa, and Batista than I anticipated. So, but it is a slow burn movie. There is a lot of stuff to take in. I think for me, some of the fight sequences were a little bit underwhelming. There's a great scene which you kind of see in the trailer between Josh Brolin character and Timothée Chalamet, Paul, and what's his name in it? I'm going to check. It is Gurney. So Paul and Gurney have like a training fight, and that's really nicely done. But when it comes to the fighting later with Duncan, Jason Momoa's character, it's quite powerful, but it's not very skillful, and it just fell a little bit flat. It seemed like that was a moment again that could have just been a little bit more. The attack on the planet was nice because it's shot at night, so you do get these big explosions. But again, because it's so dark, you don't necessarily see a lot of detail to it. There's not actually that much going on. The trailer makes it definitely seem much more action-packed than what the movie delivers, and I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that action is going to get bums on seats. It's sold as a blockbuster, and it isn't. It's kind of half blockbuster, but half almost like trying to go for that Oscar piece. It is trying to be very dramatic in its build up. So it is good. I just found some bits lacking. Paul's visions that he has, I felt they were just too often. It's like, I get the point. I see where this is going, but they just seem to be happening like every 10-15 minutes. It was just like, you're showing me a lot of what's to come in the next movie, which is great, but you don't get enough of the payoff now. So it kind of just felt uneven. And Zendaya, she has a lot of screen time, but doesn't actually impact the movie at all, really, until like the last maybe 15 minutes. She's very much going to be a character for the next film. So but look, it's a really beautiful piece. You do have to kind of bear with it. You got to be a little bit patient. and just let them like tell you the story, let you introduce you to those characters, and let it build. So let's give our scores now, and then we'll go into some spoilers. So if anybody wants to clock off at the spoiler point, we can go. So Sasha, out of 10, what would you give it?
9.
9. Wow.
I'd actually give it a 9, despite me having little qualms here and there. 9, because I'm appreciating it for what Villeneuve is trying to make. Obviously, the stuff I said about the action and stuff, those are just me nitpicking. That's just me nitpicking. At the same time, when I say that, I don't think it would have those choices would have suited the film per se, if that makes sense. Because
I get that.
A lot of it is kind of filmed a certain way for a reason, and it's just it's just damn good sci-fi at its best on a fantastic scope. So
cool, fantastic. Alex,
at the moment, I would probably go 7.5, maybe 8. As I say, it was an early evening screening, so I was just like, rushed off work, this, that, and the other. So I don't feel like my focus was 100% where it should be. So I think I do need to see it another time, and that could bump the score up definitely, because it's the sort of thing that is my interest.
And perhaps once now you're more familiar with the characters, you might enjoy it more.
Yeah, absolutely,
The concentration level's different.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think there's definitely the chance for it to bump up on a second viewing, but I think probably I'd go 7.5 at this.
Yeah, I'm going with a 7.5 as well. That's kind of how I felt. I think that if you're familiar with the material going in, I think you will enjoy it a lot more. I think if you're not familiar with it, or you haven't seen the previous movies or whatever it is, it's a lot to take in. And for me, I'm kind of I'm with the pace, but it seemed a lot slower than I needed it to go, because I recognized the story and the characters and what was happening. So it seemed probably like 15, 20 minutes long. I looked at my watch 2 or 3 times that. And I watched James Bond a couple of weeks ago, 2-hour 40 movie, and I didn't look at my watch once. So it just kind of leaned into that. I thought a couple of times I was kind of like that. But maybe a second viewing might change my opinion. But it's definitely worth seeing. It's it's one of those epic cinema things that you do have to see and check it out for yourselves. So right, let's go into some spoilers and talk about some of the stuff that happened with the characters. And I think a lot of people kind of got killed off early, which I didn't expect to.
Absolutely,
to be honest, I think I anticipate Oscar Isaac's character.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that was, even from the kind of trailers and stuff, you could kind of figure that.
Right, because you need his sun to shine, and the sun ain't going to have a chance to shine unless something happens to him. So I knew he was going to go off. Duncan, Jason Momoa, didn't expect him to go so early. I think Batista, I expect to see a lot more of him in this.
Yeah.
But there was no fighting scenes. There was literally a scene where he's talking to his uncle, like Vladimir. And then there's one scene where it's right at the beginning where they kind of explain where they took over the planet, and that's it. He must have had like 2 days filming. It's just like there was like hardly any of him at all.
It makes you wonder. I assume that there's potential, I guess, for that. Again, they're setting stuff up for part 2.
Yeah, I mean, his character definitely does have a bigger part in the second film.
Yeah,
I mean,
obviously, again, I'm not knowing the source material. I'm assuming the character is
his character is the Sting role in the original film. So. Played by Sting in the original role.
We didn't mention Stilgar, Javier Bardem. I thought he was really good in it. He was really solid. Zendaya, it's like they wanted her to promote the movie, so it's like they cut her into the movie as often as they could to justify the fact that she's going to all the premieres and being the center of attention. Because she was in the movie for like the last 15 minutes, gave Paul his knife to be able to win his fight at the end, and that's all she did.
Mate, that character young in the original version. Do you know how long she's in the movie for? Like 5 seconds. Literally even less Sunday time than Sean Young ever did. The role.
It depends if she got paid day rate or she got paid screen time. Because if she
that's right.
she made some bank on that movie.
But that's what I was saying. Like in the lead up, I was like, well, Zendaya's in it as Johnny. I'm like, well, the only way I could see her being in it more is if she was a voiceover explaining the shit. Which
I thought there might be some more narration from her or something.
Yeah, which she kind of was. kind of wasn't, if you
Mhm.
know what I mean. Like, I expected her to be cut in the way that she was and used the way that she was. So I expected that because I was thinking of ways to expand her role, like going in, because I was just like, there's no way, because like she's not in it enough.
Yeah.
Even in the second part, like she's in it, sure, but like, is she prominent to the story? Not really.
Yeah.
In the books, she's probably in it a bit more, but not a lot more, to be honest. So
Mhm.
that did kind of surprise me. But then, I can't say off the future books because I haven't read them. I've only read the first book, and that was a real long time ago. So I'm going off memory. My introduction to Dune in general was the video game on the Amiga 500, and
Right.
that was more a story based game and stuff, and it like a what's it an early RT. Well, but that was my introduction to these characters and stuff. So
Mhm.
I had a bit of familiarity going in, and obviously I watched the David Lynch one. He's from playing the game, and I thought that film was trash because it didn't really go deep enough. Especially after reading the book, I was like, "Wow, that's what we got for June. Fuck this film." Yeah, but going off that experience, like this film was a treat for me. I felt the pacing was fine because of the material.
Yeah.
I totally get 2 parts, but they have to do that second part, otherwise this film's for
Yeah.
nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's literally that. So if you want to see,
I would never revisit that film again if there wasn't a second part. It's not something. It wouldn't be worth my time. There's some great performances, and you can refer back to it from from an artistic point of view in the soundtrack and everything like that. But as a story, you wouldn't ever refer back to it because it is really incomplete. And I can understand the point where they left it off, but it did feel low key. So you expect for a part one to expect it to finish on a bit more of a high. So I'll let Sasha go into where he thinks it should have cut off, and I agree. But when we talk about that fight at the end, so basically Paul fights Yamis, basically, who is displeased that they've allowed him to live. This guy Paul on the planet, they think that he should kill him, so he challenges him to a duel, basically to the death. And Paul's character, he's seen a vision where he gets stabbed and it's like you have to take it, but then he changes his narrative and he actually ends up killing Yamis, even though he's seen in his vision he's the guy who's supposed to teach him the ways of the Fremen. So it kind of does build up into a sense of what's actually going to happen next. But they're like, okay, Paul, come with us, we're going to teach you about the ways of the Fremen. So your anticipation is pretty at the end of A New Hope, he's going to go off and learn the ways of the Force and come back stronger and take over. And I've got I'd love to chat to George Lucas because he took a lot from Dune. Dune came out before Star Wars, that book, and when he's doing this like the Whisper and stuff like that, which is basically Jedi mind mind control. It's like telling people and it's like that is all there, and I'm just like, holy shit. I didn't appreciate it till now because again I hadn't seen the original film, which they may have done it in and not read the book. But the storyline in terms of battling planets, you got an emperor. You've got this young protege who needs to come and find his ways using this like magic and force. It's freaking Star Wars. It's Harry Potter. It's the same thing, in a different shell. But obviously, Dune got there first, so fair play. Sasha, where would you have ended the movie?
I probably would have ended it where I probably would. That's if you were going. I probably would have ended it just after Momoa gets fucking murked. Spoilers. You know what I mean? Like. Ended it there, kind of thing, kind of like a. I mean,
he sacrifices himself. They escape, and now they're going out into the desert.
Yeah, and kind of, he sacrifices himself for Paul. I probably would have made Paul because I know what's coming. I probably would have had this is changing the book though. This is adapting. Probably would have had fucking. I probably would have had. What's his name? Batista. I would have had him kill. I would have had him kill fucking kind of thing.
Right,
I would have had this. I would have had them have a standoff during the attack on the Atreides. Okay. probably like have and yes, this is changing the novel a bit, but I'm talking as an adaptation. I've got to emphasize this. I would have had Momoa thing to fucking Batista.
Yeah,
to
close to
like fuck up with his pride kind of thing, and then fucking would have had Batista round 2 murder him. You would have had like the fight with the loads of guards, then Batista comes in at round 2, bam, 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 boom, Paul kind of thing in front of Paul, and then the reason being is because Batista and Paul, they have a throwdown. That is like the end fight.
Okay. So it builds it up more, makes it more emotionally.
Yeah, totally. And I know that's kind of to the book, but cinematically that would have worked, kind of thing.
That definitely would have worked. I expected something to happen between them too, because they're supposed to be doing this spin-off, this buddy cop movie together. Oh, we had a great time on Dune together. I was waiting for them to be on screen together, and it never happened. I was just like, well, what the fuck? They weren't even filming on the same days. It's like, how did they press conferences or the round table script read or whatever it was, or on Zoom? It's crazy. So I was really expecting something like that to happen, and totally agree, Sasha, that would have paid off, because they could have gone off into the desert. The only thing is, I understand where they cut it off is because now they can do a time period where Paul goes off with a Fremen, learns it, and we can say 5 years later or whatever it may be from that movie to that movie. So it does make sense from that point of view. I totally get it. Like you say, from a cinematic point of view, they could have gone off into the desert, and then the second bit comes, but then you would have jumped 5 years ahead in the second movie quite early on. So.
I think Martin would just kind of be more for a casual audience kind of thing. Probably,
definitely.
It would have taken liberties with like stuff, definitely, and it might not have been to the taste of the fans. I have no problem with the cut as it is. Personally, that's me, but that's again, that is because I know the. Personally, I think Dune. You know what? I think come out at a time where, like, even during its production, it got greenlit while cinema was. You got to understand that. Like, we didn't know about the pandemic. No, like, we knew streaming was a thing, but the rise of streaming, like during Dune's production, Mandalorian. And changed the game. Not only. The Mandalorian brought costs down in how you do films and stuff to that.
And sci-fi.
And sci-fi to that thing. I honestly, but if it doesn't get a second part, it'll be an injustice to what they've done. But however, if they want back to Arrakis and do Dune again, TV is probably the way forward for it, because the tech is there to make it look as grand as the cinema, and also
agreed.
And also honestly think Dune lends itself to a TV show.
Do you think
wasn't there rumors that it was gonna be 2 movies, and then also there was gonna be like a spin-off
or something?
I think it was gonna focus on like the Rebecca Ferguson, like the women with power. I'm not sure the name of their race or whatever.
If there was, that wouldn't have been from Villeneuve. That's just studio.
He might have been an executive producer.
I don't directing wise. I think he might have been executive producer or something. I'm sure
you're right. Definitely heard about a series development.
Expand into like TV as well.
I think if there was talks, that would have been like people at Warner Brothers just trying to capitalize on and what they've got coming out and stuff, for sure. But I do think in terms of like the movie, you either do it as a movie and respect it as a movie and Lord of the Rings, or you do it as a TV series. I think I think the universe definitely lends itself now in the state that TV is in now. In terms of movies, you either take it seriously like how Villeneuve is, and you fulfill the promise. If you don't fulfill that promise part, for nothing. So
he's actually down to direct Dune: The Sisterhood, the pilot. So he's actually down to direct that first episode.
So that will be on the Benny Gesserit. Okay.
That'll be a HBO Max. So, that is definitely something like that. What I just hope they don't do is they release part 2 as a HBO Max movie. Do you know what I mean? And then it drop off in terms of quality and what he's done. I think he is in pre-production on part 2, like very early stages, but I don't know if it's going to
he's written the script. That's existed because he wrote it all as one
and two together.
Together. Pre-production is already done. The green light to go start shooting. He said that as such. This movie currently it cost 165 million to make. Usually is 100 million, but that probably has gone up because of COVID and stuff. So
the length of time,
Here's the thing: as it stands, it's made 119 million in the territories that it has come out. Now,
that's solid.
It does say, which is kind of very solid. It has made the biggest grossing film in certain countries and stuff, which the other film in those territories that it has come out in.
And the cast has definitely lended itself to that.
That being said, the USA HBO Max the exact same time. That is going to dent the box. And 1 day earlier. So that is going to dent the box office off it.
Huge.
How it does, a very good healthy head start, I think. How will depend on the USA. If it can make 300 million, it's already got a head start. If it can make 300 million, then it back, but it needs to make that profit. So it needs to make 400 to 500 million to make profit. It's doable because it hasn't come out in China at all.
I was going to say it has. I did hear that it has been greenlit for a release in China. Is that actually still?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's definitely China. So there is hope. It all depends on this HBO Max, how that's dented the theatrically and.
I think it's a huge mistake on Warner Brothers' part. Absolutely huge.
100%. But then saying that Bond wasn't on streaming, but Bond has appetite for cinema viewers for sure. Hopefully it does well. I mean the cast.
I don't think Bond did that well box office wise in the US though. Currently, I'm sure I've seen things like Venom, even like Venom has done better in its opening weekend and stuff like that.
Well,
in the US, I'm talking about here, not obviously.
Here's the thing: with Bond, you've got to understand what people have. Is that Bond's going up against? When people talk about success for Bond, they're going up against its predecessors. If that makes its own predecessor, not other films. So I think Bond has been quite healthy, to be quite honest. Comparing Bond, they're comparing it to Skyfall or Spectre and stuff. With the Bond films, every Bond film has done better than the previous one since License. License to Kill was a dip for the franchise. GoldenEye onwards, the box office gross has been bigger and better than the previous one before. Now, with Bond, you could say COVID or whatever. For what Bond has done during this time, it's been quite healthy. But tabloids need something. So
I mean, it made 56 million in its opening weekend, but it was kind of projected like 60 to 70, so it wasn't terrible. And it's done almost 400 million total at the box office. So which is good.
Which is good for these times.
Yeah, absolutely.
$1 million movie, then fair enough. But we'll have to see. But
So any final thoughts on Dune then before we wrap this review up?
Go see it in the cinema if you want part 2.
Definitely see on the big screen. I mean, I know it's if you're in the US and you've got the availability to see it on HBO Max, I can understand it, but it needs the big screen.
I mean, I would say
don't get me wrong, repeat viewings, fair play, at home on your TV, but that initial viewing, it needs to be a big screen. you know, with the full
Yeah, it's a split movie for Warner Brothers, because what they want from this is they obviously want to up their subscription base compared to Disney Plus and Netflix. You know, that is why they're doing this, and it's one of two things. If it does really well at the box office, then I think, you know, Warner Brothers will need to say, right, yeah, we need to focus on the box office first, 30-45 day release, then put it on HBO Max, you know. But if it does get the subscribers to HBO Max and it does pull them in, the movie can still get a sequel if it does well enough additional subscribers. If it doesn't do great at the box office and it doesn't increase the number base, as in it doesn't get more viewers, then it is a disaster. You know, you need to see it one way or the other. So if you're not a HBO subscriber and you subscribe up to it and you watch it, great. But if you're already a HBO subscriber, go to the cinema and see it and push this movie in the franchise. That's my take.
I mean, on that, just look at the Black Widow fiasco, not the lawsuit. Black Widow is probably a movie. Okay, have that guarantee because it's a new IP. However, Black Widow, existing IP. If we didn't have the pandemic, Black Widow, guaranteed $1 billion movie.
Should have been. Yeah.
Should have been. But, you know, based on the character, the IP, it's a guaranteed $1 billion movie because everybody knows who's Black. Marvel fans would have come out in droves, but because it was a Disney Plus and, you know, same time, that really fucked it up.
The only thing I question about Black Widow, I don't think it would have done $1 billion, just simply because it didn't have the impact to the later story of the MCU because it was retconned in. So I think it would have been a strong 700-800 million movie, but I just don't think it would have hit that billion mark because you know what happens to the character, you know she dies, so it doesn't matter when you see this movie because it's not going to make a difference to what's going ahead in the future.
Yeah,
that's what I think about it, but we'll never know.
But
we'll never know.
I think Marvel, because she's an established character and it's Marvel, it's kind of gone hand in hand. Once you
I get that.
In an Avengers film, everyone's going to go see it, you know.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Anyway, that's a different conversation. But anyway,
that's a conversation for another time. So that was our ratings to do. So Sacha gave it a 9 out of 10. Alex and myself give it a 7.5 out of 10. But the consensus is go see it at the cinema. You know, it is visually stunning. It's one of those movies you kind of have to go and see. And those scores may increase in time on repeat viewings and when part 2 comes out. And when you see it as an overall story over 2 movies, it could end up being a 9 for everyone. So we'll wait and see what happens. But thank you very much for joining me today, guys. Where can people catch you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at Lex_Damon. When
Sasha?
On Twitter.
And you can catch me at Kenan Talks Film on Twitter. Please check out all our other movie reviews on YouTube and obviously all podcast platforms. We are absolutely everywhere. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. It goes a really long way to helping us push through and making this my full-time job, which would be amazing. But thank you very much for listening. And until next time, peace out.